Hello everyone, today we have new video review, and as you can see, this time we are going to talk about fresh release from Tamiya. So it's a new tank in 1/35 scale which copies British cruiser tank. It's A34 Comet, and this is completely new tool release. That's why I decided to take a closer look, because it will be interesting to see how the various features are molded here. And their kits, I mean Tamiya's kits, are quite famous for simplified, let's say, design, which makes it easier to assemble and yet preserves the features. So that's what we are going to check together in this video review. And of course I have to say a separate thank you for all of your donations which actually made this review possible, because without this it wouldn't be let's say possible to get this kit and review it just like that in the video. And I have to note here for the starters that the box size is quite large. So here you can see comparison with my hand. I would say it's quite unusual for the tank kit, 1/35 scale tank kit from Tamiya. We have nice box art here. We also have list of the features. Of course, these two figures, two guys, are also included if they're depicted on the box art. They're usually in the package. Here we also have one of the marking options. I guess there will be two marking options because it's written on the top of the box or top lid. And here, yes, you can see the small note that the figures are included. And of course we have this ugly sticker which is covering everything. So it's a top opening box. We also have the check here, so I will remove it so that you can see the spruce. And for this spruce, it's a typical packaging style for Tamiya. I would say nothing unusual, and it means that each sprue will be packed into a separate plastic bag and actually sealed with help of the staples. And that's what we are going to do right now. So we will be opening all the staples and checking what is hidden in these plastic bags. And I suggest we start with the large frame. So basically the overall size of the box is influenced by the size of the spruce, and it's quite surprising that Tamiya actually decided to go for such large frames. As far as I remember, such spruce of this size, they were let's say used in the, for example, elephant kit from Tamiya. So now we have in this British tank kit the same format, let's say. So here you can see the first dark green sprue. And here we have turret parts, we also have lower hull parts, and everything looks nice. Of course, due to the boxy design of this tank, you will have to assemble it out of separate panels. That's something you cannot avoid, and I would say it's quite a logical design solution. So if I zoom in here, you can see some of these panels. These are actually side skirts, side panels. And also here on these shelves, you can see that we have some guiding elements. For the turret, we have separate hatches, which is really useful in case you plan to do some diorama with this tank. And do not forget that we also place two figurines inside, so that's why these separate hatches will come in handy for sure. And here we continue with more turret parts. Here we have some of the hull parts, so everything looks really good. And if I zoom out, you can take another look. Maybe let's flip it over so that you can check the opposite part, because here we have also all these guiding elements. And in the meantime, I will open the second plastic bag. Here we have quite an interesting thing, because there are two bags connected together with a staple, but at the same time the big plastic bag is sealed, which is rather unusual for Tamiya, and that's why I will have to cut it through. But first I will open the small plastic bag with a clear frame. So let's remove this one, and I will show in a second what I'm talking about. So the clear frame is not that large, and still it is packed into a separate plastic bag. So here we have a really nice molding quality, which should look good after some careful masking. Why I'm saying that you will have to mask it, because usually Tamiya does not include the let's say masking templates or some other useful things which will speed up the assembly process. So that's why you should be ready for that. And of course, it's always better to use the proper stickers. I know that some modelers are trying to use the liquid masks, but it's not exactly the same result as what you will get with the stickers. So that's why you won't be able to avoid it, and that's why you should be ready for this. Or maybe get some aftermarket release, because maybe the masks will be actually available from some other brands, so you can just get them for some extra payment. And that's also a credible solution because it will give you a nice paint work on your model. So next we continue with the sprue. I'm just checking the main barrel, because main barrel here, maybe I will not zoom out for now. So here you can take a closer look at all the parts, and that's the main barrel. So we have the muzzle brake also pre-molded, but if I flip it over, here you can see that muzzle brake should be glued out of two halves. And in my opinion, this is really weird design, because they could have made the muzzle brake separate, and then you would have it as a one-piece part, the same with the main barrel, but somehow Tamiya decided to do it this way, and that's definitely a perfect candidate for replacement with a metal part, so I definitely recommend to check such upgrade. And here we continue also with some exhaust covers. We also have some shelves for the engine bay, we also have some parts for the turret here, and everything looks really good. So molding quality is as good as what we are used to see in Tamiya kits, so there are no surprises whatsoever. The only thing is to carefully assemble all this stuff, and of course maybe to find the replacement barrel, because this is really strange that they went with such thing in 2022. I would be fine if we saw it, let's say, several years ago, but now it's really weird to see in 1/35 scale especially. Next we continue with the plastic bag, which includes two identical plastic sprues. As you can guess, we have here track parts and also road wheels, and of course some drive sprockets. So I would show you only one, because there is no need to show the same stuff again and again, because they carry the same set of parts, as I said. So for the road wheels, they are molded as a single piece parts, and because Tamiya does not include any masking templates or even, let's say, the special templates for the painting, here you have to do everything by your own, or maybe get some aftermarket again. What is good is that we get the plastic tracks, so this will definitely influence the overall appearance of the model, but you have to be a bit careful with the separate links. So as you can see, we have some pre-molded lengths, and then we have links which will have to be wrapped around, for example, around the drive sprocket, so pay attention to this. We have also suspension arms molded separately. This might be handy for modelers who would like to get the different position of the suspension parts, so they will be able to change it. And here you can check these parts from the opposite side. So we have special guiding elements for the road wheels. They will be perfectly aligned once you get them together and apply the glue. So I will leave this sprue for now, because I'm opening another plastic bag. Just give me a moment. And that's actually the last green plastic sprue in this kit, which I will show next. Just give me a second. And here we have other sprue parts, actually hull parts. So if I zoom out here, you can see them. We also have two figurines, and every panel looks quite fine. Why I'm a bit confused, because I'm seeing this alignment elements on the side panels of the lower hull section, and they look quite interesting, but this is internal side. So if we flip it over, here you can see the external sides for the suspension parts. As far as I remember, they omitted all the internals here because they're not visible once you install the side armors. That's why it will be also a bit faster and quicker to assemble, or easier to assemble. Here you can take a closer look at the figures. So surprisingly, here in 1/35 scale we should assemble torso out of two hulls. I would say that's quite unusual for this scale, because typical 1/35 scale figurines, they are featuring one-piece torso parts, but here we have what we have. Next, I'm opening another plastic bag, so just give me a second to do so. And let's remove the decals sheet. Okay. There is no mention where these decals are printed, but as you can see, printing quality is really good, and we already mentioned that there are two marking options. So all these symbols will be necessary for two marking options, but of course, for example, these triangles you can copy with help of masking if you are good enough with such painting technique. Now we zoom out, close the lenses a bit, because here we have the tech tips brochure. It's a typical stuff for Tamiya kit. and it might be handy in case you would like to have some tips on how to assemble the nice model. Next, we continue with the background information. So here we have a brochure about the Rio tank. And for this one, I'm still not convinced by the black and white printing style. They could have made it in a color, especially for this price. But at least here inside we have the marking guide in color. Finally, this is a really good thing because it will give you a better understanding how to paint the green tank. So basically they use the color in the kit where it's not that necessary. But still, this thing is quite handy in case you would like to have some background on the tank, so definitely read it through. And assembly manual. So this one comes as a black and white brochure as well. We have some tips on the assembly. Here we have to decide which version we will be building because there are some minor differences in the assembly or in the configuration. So that's why pay attention to what you decide to copy. And the assembly starts with the lower hull section. Then we continue with the suspension arms, also the front or lower panel of the lower hull section. Here we continue with the glacis plate. Next we have the front panel for the armor. Here we have also the machine gun turret and also the top panel for the hull. Here we have the hull hatches, which are quite interesting on these British tanks, as you remember. And I think you can position them open, but there is nothing to show inside, so that's why it might be handy only for some diorama purposes, but nothing else. And next we continue with the grill on the engine bay. Here we install all the road wheels. Here we continue with the drive sprocket and road wheels for the suspension. Next we continue with the tracks. So as you remember, we have plastic tracks. Just follow the overall installation guide and you should be fine. Here we install the fenders. Also we attach in the front fenders and the side panels for these fenders. Here we start working on the storage boxes from both sides obviously, and also some Pioneer tools here and there. We also have rear fenders attachment here, headlights, also towing cables. Here I can see that we will install some rear parts as well as the tow hook. And here we continue with the smoke dischargers. And here we have a choice between the cowling, so you can decide whether you would like to have a Normandy cowling or you would like to have a standard one. And then finally we move on to the turret. So with the turret, as you remember, we have to install the gun, which is assembled out of several pieces. We also have the storage box copied, and spotlight, of course, some spare tracks, figurines. As you can see, there is a separate marking guide for those guys. And also here we have hatches attachment for the front turret, as well as the decals and painting guide or tips on how to work with this kit. So overall, it looks like a nice tank model, even though some design surprises, let's say, are questionable, because I would rather prefer to have two-piece barrel but with one-piece muzzle brake and one-piece main part. So who knows, maybe we will see some metal aftermarket from the well-known brands. Of course, I will be happy to hear your opinion about such a list. Do not forget to write it here in the comment section below, and I will see you in the next video review as usual. Thank you for joining me today, and bye.